In this AI Creator Workshop session, you learn the AI agent blueprint that actually grows your business. Not just random shiny tools, but the right AI agents built in the right order based on what your business actually needs. We walk you through over 25 real agents across marketing, sales, and operations. And I'm super excited to be joined by Maeve Ferguson, who builds diagnostic assessment systems and AI agents for some of the world's top thought leaders and experts. With that said, let's dive right into the session. Warm welcome to the session, Maeve.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one because you're teaching something that maybe it's not so out there. I think you're going to break this down for us. But to set this tone for this session, what can people expect to get out of this session if they stick around until the end?
Yeah, so essentially what they will get out of this session is truly understanding the impact of having a permanent asset inside of the company that is either theirs or a company that they are working for. And when that foundational asset is in place, then the AI agents that we can bolt onto it act as flywheels inside the company.
Wow. Okay. So tell me a little bit how you got into all of that, because that's also something I was wondering. Because I was
Yes,
checking out, like
absolutely.
in the research, your website, and you have quite a lot of different things going for it, and maybe not something everyone is talking about. So maybe break this down a little bit, and then we'll get into a full screen share, walking people through how they can set something like this up.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, I've kind of got an interesting journey to doing this today. So, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So, I used to be an accountant of all things in a past life, spent many years working for Ernst & Young Financial Services in London. And then I moved into the private equity industry for many, many years, working. I was an accountant, but very much working, running continuous improvement function, product development function, that type of thing. Ran a team of 47 people in there and kind of really honed my skills in kind of process modeling, being able to design architecture and things like that. Not really understanding at the time what I was going to end up doing now. And so anyway, I left corporate, 7 or 8 years ago now, and I came into this expert industry, retrained as an executive coach because it seemed like a logical thing to do, but very quickly discovered that it's the system, process, automation, infrastructure that is my wheelhouse. And it was also something that the expert industry seemed to struggle with a bit. So there was a really beautiful kind of dovetail there. And I then moved into kind of what's better known as quiz funnels. I built quiz funnels for years for clients. And then in the last number of years, I've moved much more to working with the absolute elite thought leaders of the world, the big household names, where we build their diagnostic assessments, that this becomes this foundational asset that we're going to be talking about today. And then whenever, as AI kind of started to become more mainstream, I've gone down the rabbit hole in a big, big way over the last 12 months or so. So we now have a division in the company that builds AI agents for clients. So we are actively working in this all the time. And obviously the landscape is just changing so rapidly. It is so exciting. There's so many opportunities. And one of the things that I'll be speaking to today is being able to choose really wisely what agents to build first, next, and next, because not all agents are created equal. And we don't want to just go and build kind of what I call like fancy little toys unless they're solving for the right problem inside of the business.
Yeah, and this is really, really cool. And what maybe you can break down a little bit about your take on AI agents. And before we get into the screen share and all of that, or maybe you'll do that during the screen share. But there's different types, and there's tools that have kind of agents built in now, like even the tools you might already be using, like a Descript for video editing. They have agents, but I think what it is that you do is a little bit more on the other end. You're taking people's the core expertise and what it is that they do, and you use that. So I'm interested to kind of hear your take on what it is that you do with the AI agents.
Yeah, so I'll be unpacking a lot of the different agents that we have built and why. My view about agents is that it's never really about the tools or the button pushing, because essentially that is becoming commoditized and everybody can do that piece. That is not the complicated piece. The most important piece is actually to look at the the whole ecosystem of the company, all of the divisions in the company, and how each activity relates to the next, so that we then, whenever we map out and ideate all of the agents that are possible, we're actually building the correct ones first. So, for example, if we're struggling with a lead generation and a market attraction problem, building an agent that solves for client onboarding, whilst it's really cool, it's not actually solving the right problem for that particular company. So I'm not a big fan of kind of cookie cutter, click this button and you're going to have 75 agents, all set up and ready to go. It's bespoke work. It's supposed to be thoughtful, and it must be aligned to the specific situation of the company.
Yeah, what's your take in terms of what kind of tasks can the agent do, that what the dollar value would you put on that in this stage we are right now? And then we can get into the screen share. But I'm just interested what it is. Like, some people are saying maybe $3 to $5 an hour. Some people say more. I mean, what's your take on, like, kind of what type of employee can an agent, take the job from?
Yeah, I think whenever we get into presenting today, it's really going to uncover that it's actually an extreme range. So, of course, there's the administrative, $5 an hour tasks, like the one where I got an email this morning giving me a briefing of here's what I had in your day and an overview about you and your past and your history and how to connect with you on this call, etc., etc. So those are kind of the $5 an hour agents, for sure. But one of the ones that I'll be speaking to later is an agent that we have that listens to every single sales call that our sales team holds, analyzes the patterns, the tonality, how well they did in relation to converting that sale, where they won the sale, where they lost the sale, what to do better next time, and then feeds that back to the sales team and to me, so that we just become a continually optimizing flywheel in relation to, and that's just for sales. So for things like that, where we are actually building our intellectual property, where before I might have had to watch the entire call and give feedback and think about doing this next time and here's how to improve that, the agent is now programmed with my intellectual property to then give that feedback to the sales team member, so that, and then that obviously eliminates that time for me. So that's actually a pretty high value agent. It really moves the needle in terms of the business, in terms of revenue generation, improvement in the team. So it's not kind of they're all $5 agents. There's some of them that are worth thousands of dollars, and some of them that are administrative things that are just kind of to-do lists.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think you set the tone. So how about we dive right into sharing and demonstrating how this can work for everyone watching?
Essentially, what we are going to be unpacking today is that the diagnostic assessment is the foundational asset in any company. And that diagnostic assessment can be something as simple as a quiz funnel at one end of the spectrum, right through to the multidimensional diagnostic, like if you've ever been through Myers-Briggs or DISC or StrengthsFinder. Okay. And then the agents are the flywheel. And my point of view here is that there are a lot of people that are kind of jumping on the bandwagon. These are they're sexy, they're shiny, they're fun. This is like the hot topic of the moment. But if we start building agents and just randomly have a load of agents out there operating on their own without any foundational infrastructure, without them actually talking to each other and working together as a team, they're just kind of fancy things sitting on the internet. They're not actually going to improve the business. So, as I said, I'm Maeve Ferguson, and we engineer proven intellectual property into data generating infrastructure. And in our view, it is the only moat left in this AI world. The client engine is built in, and the real asset is the proprietary data that compounds into lasting wealth and legacy. So, as I said, this diagnostic assessment is the primary piece. So this is where your intellectual property is codified into permanent infrastructure, and every completion of that assessment or quiz funnel is simultaneously a lead qualification event. So it qualifies every single lead coming through. So we know if somebody is a multi-six-figure client, we know if they're a 50K client, a 10K client, or if you're kind of in the digital product space, it might, this is like a $47 lead type thing. Okay. So every single lead is qualified by the assessment. And then the transformation delivery happens throughout the assessment where they feel really seen, heard, and understood. Okay. And the whole idea with these diagnostics and this foundational piece is that it acts as a routing engine. So we're able to get the right message and the right offer in front of the right person at the right time. So we're not trying to sell our multi-six figure thing to the $47 lead and vice versa. So it really, really acts as that foundational piece. And if you miss any one of them, you're going to have lost the sale. So our view is that this diagnostic assessment is the foundation of the business. And the whole idea is that there's actually a bigger layer underneath all of this in what we call the data play. So leads are the byproduct, clients are taken as a given, but the data play is the actual business. Because this data set, it can be monetized 6 to 8 different directions simultaneously. And when I'm talking about data, I'm not talking about kind of selling, like Zillow-wise, like selling people's names and email addresses. It's not that. The diagnostic assessments actually capture hundreds of data points against each lead. And when that data is aggregated, it becomes a highly valuable asset that many, many institutions out there pay handsomely for. So in my view, data is the only moat because knowledge is now valueless because you can basically figure out anything you want. Content can be replicated. Frameworks, so even if you have amazing intellectual property, it doesn't take a whole lot to be able to reverse engineer all of that using AI now and essentially have your IP as somebody's consultant inside of their pocket. Courses are completely commoditized, and AI can now produce, as we all know, it faster and cheaper than any human. But the proprietary data that these diagnostics build on how a specific population of people actually thinks and behaves and makes decisions, that can't be replicated. So it can only be collected through infrastructure you own. And this is why I'm going to die on a hill for this, that the diagnostic assessment is the absolute foundation of any company. So there are many data buyers. I won't get into this because I want to get into the AI piece, but just, for those who are interested, there are many data buyers. There are 2 tiers of data that can be sold. And the whole idea is that every single lead that goes through your diagnostic becomes a data point that has a monetizable value attached to it. Now, let's get into how it all connects because we have this. If you think through the diagnostic, okay, we have marketing and lead generation agents. Okay, so think top of funnel. All of these agents are out there working for you day and daily, driving leads into your diagnostic. Now, when I say diagnostic, as I said, we have a quiz funnel, we've got a score-based diagnostic, we've got multidimensional diagnostics. And all of these agents are actually driving traffic to the diagnostic. The diagnostic then qualifies the leads, brings them through a transformational journey, converts them, and captures those data points on every single lead. Then it routes them through to your sales mechanism. So whether you have by application only, or you have sales calls or product sales of digital courses or webinars, that routing engine delivers people to the right message and the right offer to the right person at the right time. And then as people are going through this, then the outputs of those sales conversations, the outputs of the diagnostic are then analysed by agents as well. So we're going to unpack all of these in detail in just a moment. I just kind of wanted to give an overview of the flow and the structure. So top of funnel, agents pushing the traffic into the diagnostic. The diagnostic acts as that routing engine, pushes people to the correct sales mechanism based on their investment ability and what they're struggling with, etc., etc. And then we have agents on the back end that are analysing all of the inputs, outputs, and then feeding back to the teams to make sure that we are self-optimizing the marketing function, the sales function, operations, etc., etc. Okay. And then all of the outputs of these are feeding through to what I call intelligence feeds. These are coming through strategic and operations agents. This is where we're compounding the data. We're able to run KPIs. We're able to build pipelines, do forecasting, etc., because of all of the prior work and all of the data points that have happened inside of this diagnostic. So does that make sense so far? And then what we're going to do now is kind of dive into each of the agents, how they work. And my view here is, as I'm going through each agent, have a think about your specific use case, because there are going to be some, depending on the type of creator business you have, there are going to be some that are just not relevant for you. And some of them where you're like, oh my goodness, that would save me like literally like 100 hours a week. Okay. So just think through, which of these would be good use cases for you. And then, as I said in the intro, make sure that we're not just randomly jumping in and building stuff. We want to think through things from this infrastructure, this kind of zoom way out to the 30,000 foot view. What is the ontology of the whole entire piece? How do all of our divisions interconnect and work with each other and connect with each other in a manual way? Currently, we'll have funnels and automations and all of those types of things, of course, but how are they all interconnected? Because if you don't do that piece first, before you start pushing buttons, what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a load of disparate agents that are off there doing their thing. They're going to be spitting out amazing output, but the next agent isn't actually grabbing that output and doing something with it. So we just end up with noise and not actually any improvement in the business. So is there any questions so far, or will I keep going?
No, this is great so far, because you're giving you're setting the stage basically for what's to come. I think that's always good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the way we then do this, and obviously there are many, many, many more divisions in a company. You can have finance agents and HR agents and all of the things. But what I wanted to do just was kind of go through 4 main divisions. And these are agents that we have already built. So we know that, all of what is involved in them, what works, what doesn't work, what to consider as you are building these agents for yourself. But you can obviously extrapolate this out across different divisions as well, finance, HR, and so on and so forth. This is just to give the flavor. So marketing and lead gen, interestingly, whenever you look at all of these, this seems to be the highest volume of agents that we build. And this is for our company and for all of our clients as well. And it's interesting that this is where, whenever we normally do the ontology of like, here's the overview of the entire company, for most companies, this is where we actually start the build as well, because the bottlenecks, which are what we're trying to solve for with these agents, the repeating manual activities that take a load of time and don't add much value, those are the things that we are trying to optimize, the things that we're trying to improve, and a lot of them actually fall into marketing lead generation. So let's go through these one by one. This is one of my favorites. So I think similar to you as well. I do the newsletter model, where once per week, even though I am way down this AI rabbit hole, I actually write my Substack by hand. And I'm not a big believer in kind of spitting out AI generated garbage, because the world is full enough of that. So I write that by hand every single week. But I don't have time to sit there and like repurpose it, or even like run it through Claude to say like, right, turn this into a LinkedIn post for me. What we have instead is an agent that repurposes all of that content across all of the different platforms. And the whole idea here is, and this is like an important point to note, that we're not just bumping this into like any random agent and say like repurpose this content. The agent is pre-programmed with years of my intellectual property. It is pre-programmed with my brand voice that we have worked incredibly hard to refine, to optimize, to improve, all of those things. Every single week, the IP bank gets updated with every single training that I have done. I do about 5 podcast interviews per week, any coaching sessions that I had, any consulting sessions that I've had with clients, any VIP days, and so on and so forth. we have a process to grab all of that IP. And every single time I open my mouth, every single time I type something, it goes into that IP bank that then informs the content repurposing agent so that it literally comes out as though I wrote it. And it's not allowed to use any AI generated words. It's only allowed to use the words that I actually wrote inside of my newsletter. And that allows us then to be omnipresent across all of the platforms. And essentially all I have to do in any given week is write my Substack, pass the team the Google Doc, they run it through the agent, and everything else is kind of done and dusted. Okay, so really, really, really useful in terms of the number of hours saved, both from a kind of a VA perspective, but also from the creator themselves perspective, saves a colossal amount of hours. Okay. Social media intelligence. This was pretty cool. So this is where obviously all of this content that you have just created and posted and put out there, some of it's going to bomb, some of it's going to land, etc. So what we want to do is we don't want to just do things for doing them's sake. We don't want to just post across all of the platforms and not actually learn from what our market is telling us. So my highest value is continuous improvement. I always want to know what can we do better, even if it is the tiniest, most incremental little thing. If we can improve that even 0.1%, it's still better than we were yesterday. So for social media intelligence, what this agent does is it then goes and reviews automatically all of the content that was posted prior week, lets us know the reach, the engagement, the likes, the comments, the interaction, or lack thereof, and then summarizes like, here's what landed, here's what didn't land, here's what to do better next time, and then feeds that back to the marketing team and myself so that whenever I am writing next week's Substack, we can do a better job. So it just becomes a self-optimizing flywheel. So I absolutely love that one. Podcast and YouTube script agents. So for our for our YouTube channel, I'm not a massive fan of completely scripting it and you're like reading like a robot off the screen. But I do like to have like, you know, an outline of like, here's where to take the conversation. And so this agent, essentially, we just dump in a topic and again, pre-programmed on my intellectual property, my point of view, my model of reality. This then pushes out the outline or the script, if you prefer, the outline of here's what to talk about in your video, so that it captivates and converts. Okay, so you can build these in any way that you want. The common thread that I want you as the viewer to pull on and to hear is that anybody can spit out a YouTube script, having it built with the correct IP in mind, having it built as a machine that knows how YouTube works, knows how podcasts work, knows the mechanism by which you're sharing the content so that it actually converts is the most important piece, because pushing the buttons is the easy bit. Email campaign copywriter. So I'm not going to go through all of these in like great detail, otherwise we'd be talking for 5 hours. But again, all of these ideas, just have a think for your business. Where I see a lot of people who are, yes, I'm using AI, they're just having a conversation with Claude or ChatGPT or whatever platform they use. Having agents that can actually take the piece that we want to do, we put an input in, and it does all of that forward and back and acts as a sparring partner inside of the agent. So then all we have to do is then just collect the output. It's a very, very different thing than just kind of manually going forward and back using AI. Okay, one of my absolute favorites is the content calendar planner. It's like, right, here's, and especially if you're in an evergreen business model, works for launches as well. You literally just put in, here's what's coming up. Here's what I want to be focusing on the next 6 months. So for us inside of our company, for example, we have the diagnostic assessments that we do done for you. We run VIP days. We have Smart Scale, which is our agentic AI done for you service. So I want to be able to get into a good cadence of sharing different offers at different times of the year based on what our goals are as a company. And that content calendar planner allows you to do that. So you're able just to give it instructions, and then at the back end out pops your beautiful content planner. Headline hook generator, content ROI attribution. So this one is pretty cool. So again, it kind of ties in with this social media intelligence, but this is like which pieces of content, which Facebook ads, which copy, which creative actually resulted in sales. And this is the kind of the powerhouse of the diagnostic assessment, where we're able to like use this routing engine. We know exactly what piece of copy, what ad, what campaign, what ad set they came through the diagnostic. They then bought or they didn't buy. And if they bought at different levels. And what we're able to do then is know which pieces of content actually turned into an ROI inside of the business. So super, super cool, really, really valuable. And again, all of these things talk to each other so that they aren't just disparate agents of kind of working randomly by themselves. Brand Voice Monitor, cool. It's not going to be for everybody, but for those who have really, really high profile, where the online streets are kind of talking about them, this monitor keeps a check and balance of any mentions of you as the creator online and flags to your attention anything that's like, this could be damaging to our reputation, and the good things that are happening out there as well, just so that you have a finger on the pulse. You're not waiting for somebody to let you know that somebody has said something bad. You're just informed on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, or whatever cadence you choose, to understand how you're being seen in the market. So hot leads alert system, I absolutely love this one. So if you think about leads coming into any company, there are leads that get forgotten about. There are leads that just kind of vanish into thin air. And not all leads are created equal. So we have some people who would be better being served through watching your YouTube channel, and some people who want to work with you at a multi six-figure level, if not more. Okay, so there's a wide spectrum of what can happen in there. And what we don't want to do, especially if you have a sales team, that type of model, is you don't want your sales team focusing on leads that don't have $20 to spend. Okay, so the whole idea with the hot leads alert system is that it knows as somebody's going through the diagnostic, it knows based on past patterns of behavior, past investment markers and wealth markers that we build into these diagnostics, who is actually going to be the person that can, afford to work with us, is going to actually jump into our program. Okay. And again, because we have so many data points on every single lead that we are analyzing in the long term, we're aggregating that data, we're understanding the patterns of behavior in every single market that we are in. This hot leads alert system knows how to differentiate a hot lead from a lukewarm or a cold lead. And then what that allows us to do is to send a Slack notification to the sales team to say, so-and-so has just opted in. This is a VIP kind of hot lead, tier 1, go look after them. And the people who are coming through that probably not going to invest in us anyway, we're able to allow the automations to handle them and just take them through the systems. So that's a really, really valuable one. This one here is pretty cool. Kind of weird, but cool. So basically what this one does is it knows, even if somebody hasn't opted in, it knows when somebody hits our website, when somebody checks out our application page, etc. What it does is it gives us their name, their email address, their phone number, their LinkedIn profile, all of these things. And then it goes and auto follows them or connects with them on LinkedIn. So it basically acts as a connector for you. You can set it up to send them messages and all of those types of things. I personally prefer the personal interaction. So we stop it there, but it is possible to then start sending them DMs and all of that kind of stuff as well. But it really gives you really good insight into who is coming into your world. It's always hilarious whenever I have a podcast episode air and you can see this flood of viewers coming in from a very specific vertical. And this agent basically tells me that the episode is aired before the host of the show has even let us know that it has been aired. Okay, so super, super cool. And it allows you then to engage with people who have been checking you out. Speaking Engagement Scout, really, really cool. We actually had to turn this one off for a while because it was providing too much value. And this Speaking Engagement Scout is one where it is given very specific instructions about the types of people that we want to work with. Okay, so who do we want to have in the audience? For me, it's like really elite thought leaders. Okay, so think through who you're, like as a viewer of this, who's your person that you want to get in front of. And then this Speaking Engagement Scout goes out there and finds speaking engagements, both virtual and in person, both free and paid. And then essentially it does an analysis based on pre-programmed instructions, grades all of the speaking opportunities from A through F, so that the team then know, right, let's apply for these 3 speaking opportunities, but these ones here we can just completely ignore. And it also looks at my calendar, and it knows if I'm in New York or Ireland or wherever I am, and it is able to recommend speaking opportunities that come up as available whenever the agent knows that I'm already going to be in New York that week. Okay, so super, super cool. But we actually had to turn it off because it was for a while, because there were so many opportunities came through, even at kind of the ABC grade, that even if I did keynotes like 25 hours a day, there just literally would not be, there was just still too many opportunities. So a little health warning with that one. Application review agents. So I love this one because it kills a lot of time and manual effort in the sales team. Okay, so application review, is this a good fit person? Is it not a good fit person? Which ones should we let through to like kind of book a call with us? Which ones should we pass and just kind of send them some freebie just to keep them going? So this agent helps take all of those inputs. Again, they've been through the diagnostic, they apply to work with you, and then this agent reviews the quality of the application and then lets us know whether to go ahead or not. Lead tier classification, I talked about this a little bit earlier already, where every single lead is classified into platinum, diamond, gold, silver, bronze, or unqualified, and we're able to then just send them on their merry way depending on the caliber of lead that they are. Lead nurture manager, diagnostic intelligence. This one is where the agent with the diagnostics is able to monitor completion rates, drop-off points. It analyzes the quality of the data, tells us insights into our audience that then informs all of the other agents that are working in the marketing division top of funnel. Okay, and then LinkedIn Connection Builder. This one is super cool and useful to pretty much everybody. So essentially this is instructed with here's my ideal client here. So for me, it would be a best-selling author, keynote speaker, TEDx, all of that type of thing. And it goes out actively every single day and builds my audience for me on LinkedIn, connects with the people, sends them an initial message, likes their content, etc. And then when we have sent that initial message, then we take over then and have like real person-to-person conversations. So that connection builder, again, is just replace an entire VA that is now just running every single day, day in, day out. And it allows us to build that network, and then that turns in, obviously, on the back end into clients. So those are a few ideas for marketing agents, okay? And there are many, 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 many more. This is just kind of a kind of a high level overview of what is possible. So hopefully the wheels are turning about like, oh, that would be so cool. That would work for me. That one, not so much, but like these 6, for example, would be the first agents that I would build, because they're solving for a bottleneck or a problem or a struggle that I am experiencing. Okay, so that's the marketing angle. Let's move on to sales a little bit. So I talked
Yes,
about
let's
earlier.
unpack a few things here. I mean, this is really good because you said you are actually handwriting your newsletter. I just kind of caught up on that
Yeah,
because Ryan Levesque, he has been on my summits and workshops in the past, and he says he
yes,
does the same for his newsletter every week. But then,
yeah,
as you do, he takes that
mhm,
newsletter that he handwrites and he turns that into pieces of content for his YouTube and other
exactly.
platforms, right? And even I think he has a newsletter to his main list, and he has a Substack, and he
Yeah,
has different ones. And he just, I mean, I'm sure it's maybe his team that is doing some of that with the help of AI. But maybe we can get into as well, kind of. Maybe we won't have time to get into everything in detail, how to set it up. But like, what tools would you use, for example, to do certain things? I think the audience would be super interested to know kind of what you would recommend. At least there are many ways to do things with
yeah.
AI, but kind of your recommended stack for doing certain things, especially the ones in content creation and stuff like that.
Yes, absolutely. So we are focusing on written pieces for now, and I use a range of different platforms, but ours is slightly different because I'm always building agents from the viewpoint of usability for our clients, because we actually build agents for clients. Okay, so I did a lot of work for about 9 months, building everything on Manus. And I actually ended up, like, and I love Manus, I use it all the time, it's incredible. But I actually moved to Lindy for the done for you agents component of our business, because it is easier to get those agents across to client accounts and get everything set up, and for it to be usable and understandable for them. So we use Lindy quite a lot. And then what we do, and I learned this the hard way. I was telling Mike the other night that I had like a lovely multiple $1,000 lesson learned in my early days of playing with this, because I was designing and building all of these agents on Lindy. And I like me munching through tens and tens and tens of thousands of credits. So I learned the hard way about that. So what we now actually do is I use Claude, both co-work and the browser version, and we ideate, design, build, go forward and back in Claude to design the perfect agent, and then we actually take that to Lindy then to build it out. Okay, so it's super simple structure. Lindy is very kind of self-explanatory platform if you're building, if the viewer is building this out for themselves. So essentially what we are doing, super simple kind of stack. I'm writing the newsletter on a Google Doc. Literally, I used to like put it through I fire it over in Slack to the team, into the content channel, and then they have an SOP that they follow to put it into the agent. Okay, so put it into the agent, and then essentially what that is doing is creating each of the different pieces of content for all of the different platforms based on LinkedIn rules, Instagram rules, email, etc., etc. And the next stage on from that, now I haven't gone live with this yet, even though it is possible, is where this is all auto-posted, auto-scheduled, everything. I still have a human being checkpoint in my process, even though you can go and cross-purpose this across all of the different platforms. It's physically possible now, whereas a few months ago it wasn't. It is physically possible now. I still have that check and balance just to double check the quality of the output, make sure that it is kind of like we're happy with it. So that is the route that we have chosen to go. I'd say we're maybe a couple of months off, been able to automate, like we use Go High Level. So like being able to do all your scheduling through that, pulling from an asset bank of, your latest photo shoot and all of that type of thing. So that is, we essentially use Lindy to build these agents. And then another really good lesson learned that we had was we used to build all of the instructions, if you like, say, for example, for this one, all of the instructions, we used to build them into the agent itself. So the brand voice, and here's my, like, all of my IP, etc., etc. And what we soon discovered then is, like, as you try to roll this out to other people, you're basically rebuilding the wheel every single time. So now we just have kind of documents on a Google Drive with each of the inbound assets that the agent needs to pull from, that then those can just be updated any day. And then the agent, the next time it runs, is going to grab from the correct document. So having that structure set up, if you're using Lindy or it doesn't really, N8N or Make or Gumlip or whatever, in my view, like, the tools are the least important piece, but it's what everybody thinks is the most important piece, is what everybody wants to talk about. It's like, what tool are you
Yeah, I
using?
mean, I do think I mean, you can use also Claude Code. You can use a lot of different
Yes.
things, but I think like Claude Cowork is not as autonomous as Lindy. Lindy can just go out there and do the work. With Claude Cowork, you kind of have to be a little bit there, to and it does the work, but
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
have to like approve stuff and things like this. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how Claude
Exactly.
Cowork
Yeah.
works, and I think Cloud Code is a little bit on another level, and then obviously with OpenClaw and things like that, it can just kind of
Yeah.
work for you. But I think what would be interesting during this session also talk a little bit about the cost to run certain things. You mentioned a bunch of different agents here. Maybe if you can, it's not confidential. Maybe going into a tool, kind of showing some example of kind of what an agent can look like, especially maybe the repurposer you mentioned for your newsletter. That could be exciting for a lot of people watching.
Yeah, so the cost is an interesting piece, especially if you are building for others. But it has to be like, even if you're just a user of an agent, you got to understand that it's not free. Okay, so there's some people are like, oh, like, what do you mean? I didn't realize this agent was going to cost money. And it's like, well, like, how did we think it was going to run? So obviously they use credits, but I think it's important that whenever we are, again, back to that high level overview that I talked about earlier, and deciding what we're going to build first, next, and next, we want to be really mindful of, like, right, if this thing is going to cost like $100 to run, like it's probably not going to cost that, but like, let's say it's going to cost $100 to run, you're going to run it every single day. Is that actually in budget for your business? So say for me, for example, where's the brand monitor, okay? Very little value in running this thing every single day, okay? Because, I'm not Mel Robbins, okay? There's not like people commenting on my stuff out there and, sharing articles about me every single day. So like, for us, this is like a once a month activity. So you want to be mindful of the cadence that you run your agents at, again, depending on the type of business you have, the profile you have, the volume at certain kind of intersections in your business that you have. You want to be mindful of all of that. And as you're building these agents, knowing, so one thing that we're starting to do as a team, because obviously we're building these for clients and rolling these out for clients, we're actually able to tell them then, like, right, this is how much this agent is roughly going to cost. So say, for example, our LinkedIn connection builder, it's about $5 a day. Okay, so we're able to actually, then they're able to kind of compute how much that's going to cost them over the course of the month, and they say, yes, we want this one, or no, we don't. So really kind of understanding the cost per run comes from two things. So every single person in the world is like currently kind of building the plane as they're flying the plane as they're building it. Okay, so this is all brand new for everybody. And for us, it's just been very much build it, run it, and then go back and look retrospectively to see almost like how many credits did it gobble up. And then obviously you can optimize these things as well. So you don't need to be using Opus 4.6 if it's just, a read and understand function. You want to make sure that you're pulling on the right model depending on the complexity of the task that the agent is being asked to do. Okay, so that's a really, really important piece from being able to decide what you want to build first, next, and next. Okay, so do you want to go to Lindy, or will I just kind of run through a few of these other
run through
examples?
this first with your agents because you mentioned the sales. I think it could be good to just go through this, and then we can go into the
Yeah.
tools, kind of show people inside. I think that's always good. Although the tools can change, I think the fundamentals that you are going through is really, really important.
Yeah. Okay. So sales and conversion intelligence. Okay. So this one here is definitely my favorite. Reason being is that we have programmed the agent on kind of global best practice sales frameworks so that the agent knows whether somebody has done a good job in the sales conversation. So for example, if they were going through the BANT framework, we have this built into the agent, and it's like, okay, you did this really well, but you forgot to ask what's their budget? Okay, so like a really basic 101 thing in sales, we didn't actually get the budget, and the agent is reviewing the transcript of the sales call automatically. As soon as it ends, that triggers the agent automated in the background. That agent is pre-programmed with instructions to listen to this transcript, compare it against best practice framework A, B, and C, give feedback to the sales team member on what they did really well, where they have room for improvement, if they won the sale, how they won the sale, if they lost the sale, how they lost the sale. If we have a 2-call close process because our work is kind of requires that to go and build a bespoke proposal. So we then have built into our agents, it's like it gives like, here's the likelihood of this converting at the next stage of the process. And it is eerily accurate whenever you look at the actual close rates across the business and what the agent said was the likelihood of this converting. It's pretty much exactly where you would expect it to be. So this agent is like it's doing objection handling, it's spotting patterns of behavior, closing effectiveness, how much the sales rep is talking versus the lead talking, all of that type of stuff. But interestingly, it kind of made us laugh internally in the team. And it's an example of agentic AI improving over time. So whenever we initially built this agent and it was running, it had zero capability of like reading the tone of the room. Okay, so I'm not involved in sales in our company at all. But as this agent was rolling out, I was super curious. I was like opening up the output documents that the agent created, which was the report about the performance of the sales call. And I was reading it and I was like, this person sounds so horrible. Like, I don't want to work with them. And I was almost like, this kept coming through where it made the lead sound like a really difficult human being. So I was kind of going back to the sales advisor and saying like, oh gosh, like they sounded like a nightmare. Like, I hope you got through that okay. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, they were really lovely. So I got curious. I then watched the replay of the sales call. The person was perfectly lovely, but what the agent actually lacked was the ability to read have the tonality and know the kind of the chit chat that was happening and the mood in the room. So now we're optimizing the agents to be able to understand that level of nuance as well. So really amazes me how, even the things that we built last month, they can already be optimized now. It's going so fast and things are just getting so much better and better and better that, we'll look back at stuff we did a few months' time and almost laugh at ourselves that that's where the world was back then. Okay, so sales call intelligence, super, super cool, happens automatically after every single sales call. Proposal creator. So we do a lot of these artifacts, as you can see. So this is just built on Cloud Code, this entire page. And again, for our proposals, what this agent does is it grabs the transcript of the conversation between the sales team member and the lead and creates a proposal, which we send out a bespoke proposal for every single person because the work that we do is bespoke. It's not a digital course or a cookie cutter coaching program. We have, we work privately with people. So it is a bespoke proposal. And you remember back in the day when you had to spend hours and hours and hours crafting these proposals, this is now an automated process, I would say, to about 85-90%. It still requires a little bit of refinement. Okay, so it's not, not going to blow smoke and say like, oh, this like spits out a perfect output every time. You still got to run your eye over it and make sure that it 100% aligns with what was agreed inside of the initial sales conversation. But it collapses, it just gets rid of all of that time. And back to your initial question at the top of the conversation, this is where this is like super, super high value. So if you think of the cost of somebody having to spend like 7 hours, like, laboring over a manual proposal, this eliminates like the vast, vast majority of that work. Okay. So it's just run your eye over it. We have an internal approval process and off it goes the next day. So super, super cool. Conversion analyst. So this one is it identifies bottlenecks across all the funnel and the touch points. Okay. So and this is because we have the diagnostic. Okay. So as I said before, the diagnostic assessment is the foundational asset in the business. Everything that happens, all of the agents that drive leads into it, are so that we can get them through the diagnostic, and then the diagnostic acts as that routing engine, but people fall off. So what the agent does is it's analyzing, like question 17, you're losing 19% of your market as they get to that point. So then we know exactly what to go and do and fix and optimize instead of scratching our heads and wondering what's broken in our funnel. We're able to actually know exactly where people are falling off. We build these KPI dashboards and reporting, etc., using agentic AI that allow us then to optimize every single touch point of the funnel. And like if you're kind of running organically only and 100 leads going through a thing a week, that's one story. But we have clients who are like running $1 million a month in ads. through these diagnostics. So we don't exactly want to like not know what's going on. So the value of all of these agents is obviously exponentially higher when there is significant ad spend on the front end. Okay. High ticket buyer finder. This one is a weekly report that an agent runs that identifies pattern recognition across the pipeline. Okay, so I touched on this a little bit earlier, but this is the one that identifies behavioral signatures of high ticket buyers so that we can find more and more of them and less of the people that just want free stuff. Okay, so really, really cool. Generates a report, sends it to the Slack, to the sales team over on Slack, so that they know exactly who to follow up with, etc., etc. Follow-up sequence managers, pricing calculators, client satisfaction monitors, quite a cool one as well, where this agent listens to our client conversations. It's very similar to the sales call intelligence agent, but this is actually listening to what is being unsaid. Okay, so what are people not saying? What are the things that are happening between the lines that the naked eye couldn't see? And the whole idea of this one is to identify potential churn. I actually got this idea whenever I was reviewing a membership site. Okay, so where churn is a big thing, completely different model. So we were like high tickets, like bespoke private work. Membership is the complete opposite end of the scale, but it was the same principle. Okay, so that's what I'd like you to take away. It's like, don't say, oh, like that's not relevant for me. It's like, right, this agent was analyzing potential churn in a membership. What is the relevant use case of that for my company and for other companies? And it's so basically it listens to see, is the client truly happy? Are they really, really loving it? Is there anything that they want to say but they're not quite saying? And because the agent is programmed to understand psychology, it is then telling us, by the way, you just had this call with, Katie, your client today, for example, and this is going well and this is going well, but you might just want to check in with her and see how she's feeling about X. So then we're able to take the forward of that, check in with the client. She's like, oh my goodness, amazing. I was wondering about that. And we have solved for a problem that never actually got to raise its head. Okay. So we're able to solve things ahead of time. And then testimonial opportunity finder one is quite cool as well. So same principle, it listens to the conversation and it knows what, basically we build testimonial flywheels. So it's like, what is a one-liner that a client said? Or, I was on with a client the other day and they were like, yes, I signed a 50K client. Okay, cool. That is an example of what this agent grabs and then says, can you go back to client X and get a formal testimonial about them sending this 50K client? So what it does, again, it's so easy to get so busy and you're so in the weeds and so busy doing that you need to do these types of things, but they never actually get done. What the agent does is that it makes sure that it actually gets done, so then your team can go and action it. So those are some of the sales agents and some of the strategic agents that we have in place as well. So these are kind of very what do I want to say? They're very kind of output focused. They're giving us stuff that is super valuable, super helpful in terms of getting more leads, making more sales. The strategic pieces are more kind of like what I would view as like the CEO level activity. So the morning briefing agent, it is pre-programmed to, it knows exactly what me or whatever client we're building this for needs to know, wants to know, different topics, different angles, world events, etc. I am the type of person, I just point blank refuse to watch the news. I don't watch TV. I don't want any of negative anything anywhere near me. But I also don't want to walk into a room and, not know something massive that is kicked off in the world. So this briefing agent goes off, scrapes everything that I've told it that I want to know and need to know, condenses it down into super bite-sized pieces, brings me back and tells me exactly what I need to know so that I can keep my blinkers on, stay in my energy, do my thing without getting sucked into the vortex of what seems to be going on in the outside world. Okay. Really, really cool. Again, it's not going to be needed for everybody. It's just an example of a use case that for me personally, it solves for that problem that I just don't ever want to watch the news. Okay. Conquest intelligence. This is, I'm pretty sure, my absolute favorite one. So we have a running list of all of the dream clients across the world that we want to work with. We're talking the biggest thought leaders. We're working with some of them already. We want to work with these incredible people. And what this Conquest Intelligence agent does every single day is it is scouting all of their social profiles, so their YouTube, their podcast, their LinkedIn, etc., Substack, etc., etc. And this Conquest Intelligence agent then scrapes all of these to see where, against obviously the list of people that we have given the agent, so these are the 100 people that I want to work with, it goes in and finds where they have shared content, where they have shared, or they've published a book, or they've got a new YouTube video, or whatever it may be. And then it sends us the link, okay? It auto likes it, okay? Now, I'm not a huge fan of the bot comments under the thing because the person knows that it's a bot commenting. But what it does is it actually shares with us the link to the article so that we can go in and leave a thoughtful comment. The agent gives us an example of, like, here's an angle that you can use in your comment. I just prefer to go and then handwrite it so it's thoughtful. But this is working across all of these dream client lists. This is keeping us abreast of every single thing that is going on with the people that we want to work with, so that it's putting it front and center in front of us every single morning, so that we're not sitting there going, oh yeah, I must get to go and like check so-and-so's profile and see what they're up to these days. It never gets done. So the agent actually drives the activity. Then we've got SOPs and team, etc., doing certain activities on these pieces. But this Conquest Intelligence agent just provides an insane amount of value to the team. KPI dashboard manager. So absolutely adore this one. Now, this one is semi-autonomous. And we talked a little bit earlier about some of the agents that are completely automated. You mentioned Cowork and Lindy and things like that. So not all, in my view, not all agents should be completely autonomous, and not all activities should become agents either. Okay, so we want to be really mindful about what we are making completely autonomous, what we are keeping semi-autonomous, i.e. where the agent is doing 80-20 of the work and then a human being is doing the final pieces. And this KPI dashboard manager is an example of that, where we have semi-autonomous processes in place that we do this for a range of different clients. They just have us on monthly retainer, but we basically build essentially cloud artifacts of all of the KPIs inside of their company. So we're maybe extracting it, depending on the complexity of the company, we are extracting data points from like maybe 15 different platforms. And when nobody has an overview of all of those numbers across all of the platforms, it just ends up a big hot mess. What we do is actually we have a very, very structured KPI reporting system where we extract data point A, data point B, data point C. It then goes into this kind of process where then at the back end we're able to spit out KPIs for the entire company, and you're able to dig into your ROAS, etc., etc. You're able to even, like, we analyze down to the level of, here's the copywriter who had the greatest ROAS in the team, here's the piece of creative that worked the best. We are able to analyze any piece of data in the company and then present it in a beautifully an aesthetically pleasing format, so that the user of the dashboard, they can see all of their key numbers. They know exactly what ads are performing, what ads are not, what to turn off, what to scale, etc., based on these KPI dashboards. So that's a really beautiful one, but it is semi-autonomous because there are so many inbound data points that there's a human required just to start the process. Competitor watch is very, very simple. Does what it says in the tin. It's basically watches. So we give the agent instructions of the different things or sorry, the different competitors that we want to keep an eye on and what they're up to. And then it sends us a report every week to say, here's what's going on in your market. Here's who this competitor has made this move. You might want to be mindful of this. And we've also set it up if there's anything kind of urgent. It doesn't wait till the following Monday to tell us. It kind of flags it on the day. So you can build these to be either running on a calendar schedule or to let us know as soon as there's something of significance that happens. Revenue forecasting agents, ad performance optimizer, again, one of my favorites, where we are so many people who are running paid traffic. It is like spray and pray, whack them up and hope for the best. What this actually does is analyze down to the nth degree of the performance of the copy, even tracking like who wrote the copy, the performance of the creative. Obviously then we're running them through these diagnostics, so we have all of those data points as to then who bought what at the back end, and then it feeds back to the marketing team to say this copy is working really well, this copy is absolutely booming, this particular copy had a way higher start rate than this copy, and so on and so forth. So then the media buyers just get this self-fulfilling kind of flywheel of information getting passed back to them as to here's what's working, here's what's not. So really, really, really powerful. Quarterly review generator, again, is kind of tied in with the KPI dashboard, but it lets us know on a quarterly basis how everything is going. And then strategic recommendations. So this is really, really powerful in that we have programmed it to act as a business strategist. But where the value comes in is that we are layering in the data that we have off the back of the diagnostic, the data that we have off the back of the sales mechanisms, so that it's able to tell us where to go as a company. So very, very kind of high end, super valuable. Potentially not for people viewing right now, but I'm just kind of giving an overview of different things that we are using. And then operations, kind of daily pipeline prioritizer. Again, we want to focus on the hot leads. We want to focus on those platinum leads that are actually going to pay us instead of spending attention on unqualified leads. So this one gets everything into the right order. Task assignment optimizer as well. So again, get it like we all have 1,500 things to do. What are the most important things that have to get done today so that we are actually working on the most important activities? Deadline monitors and alerts. So this depends if the creators who are viewing, if you're viewing this and you have a lot of deadlines, this is like super useful, where it kind of scans what's going on in your project management platform of choice, and it's like able to say to you, like, you know, heads up, here's what your deadlines are today, but here's what's coming at you next Thursday. And it just keeps you abreast and being able to run really, really, really strong client projects. And then team capacity analyzers. So this one's good for us because we have an agency model. And anybody who's run an agency will know that team capacity becomes an important piece whenever you're completely booked out. So you want to kind of, this agent is like really understands each person's capacity, what they're able to work on, what their skill sets are, what projects are in the pipeline, what projects are ongoing, which ones are about to go live, etc. And is able to flag to us where we are like, okay, you know, Genesis is like literally about to cap out. And it just gives you that foresight before agency staff then, you know, burn out and quit, basically. So pretty cool. Those are the different agents that I kind of wanted to share with you today. And let me just pull up, I'll just stop sharing for a second and come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, this is amazing. I'm sure people got so many ideas. I mean, I've never seen someone share so many different types of agents in like one sitting like this. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just like and that's just scraping the surface. Like there are a million things we could build. I feel very strongly just because you can build an agent doesn't mean you should. And it's like, are we actually solving for the right problem? I think that is the most important piece. So I'll just pull up, like, say, for example, our marketing agent. And let me see.
Yeah, if you can dive into a few to kind of show on the inside what it can look like and maybe how you decide. You say you use Lindy for most of the stuff now, but do you use any N8N setups and stuff like that as well? I mean, that's been popular. And
Yeah, see,
I mean, I actually something I saw from Sabrina Romanov. She's a speaker on the
yes.
summit as well, and she is the founder of a tool called Blotato. I'm not sure if you have seen that, but that can
No.
automate a lot of posting to different platforms. And she blew up
Yeah.
on social media using her own tool, basically, and of course, posting good content. But that's kind of what it's for, to amplify kind of what the content you create already. And then you can connect that to Cloud Code or whatever agent platforms you're using with N8N and stuff like that. So I thought
Yes.
that was pretty cool.
Fabulous. Yeah, so what I was saying, sorry, is like what amazes me and what I love about AI is that you could put like 100 of us in the room who are down this agentic AI rabbit hole. We all have different points of view. I think this is why the summit is so valuable. We all have different points of view. We're all playing with different toys. We all have different experiences, different insights, different things that we have built. And the beauty of it is that level of awareness, like even that platform name, like that's a writer downer, okay? Because then you can go investigate that. The example that I gave earlier about the sales call analyzer, where it just wasn't getting the tone of the room. I was at an agentic AI event in Boston there a couple of weeks ago, and a guy was random, I don't know why we ended up chatting about this particular agent, and he was able to give me the name of a platform that I didn't know existed that was able to assess for this tonality. So now we're off actually building that into that agent as we speak. So it's like all of these conversations, every single speaker on the summit is going to drop like a platform or a name or a one-liner, or a different angle or a different viewpoint as to how to use agentic AI. That, like, it's the beauty of the summit. So let me see, like let's go content repurposing machine, for example. Okay. So anybody that's using Lindy, you'll be very familiar with this. Okay. So this was run this morning at 7:27. Okay. So you literally have, and I'm sure everybody's aware of how this works, so I won't get into like how to push the buttons, but basically it's just like how to get started, and then we just dump in the newsletter that I have written, and then the flow editor is where you'll see how this all works. Okay, so the begin the chat is the piece that we just saw. Then it essentially has to go, let me just close that. So it has to go to gather all the inputs. Okay, so it's like, this is like the instructions that we put in. So it asks us basically, what week are we in rotation? We have 5 different plays that we have in terms of our content. So basically the agent asks you, are you in week 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Okay, so for this week, for example, the newsletter was all about agentic AI, which is our offer that is called Smart Scale, which is week number 3. Okay, so we say it's Smart Scale week 3. What's your Instagram keyword? So where you DM the keyword off the back of the post. Okay, so I just said the word was agent, super simple. And then this week's URL was you're putting in the link to the application to come and work with us in Smart Scale. Okay, so you literally just put in those inputs, done, and then the agent has these instructions to follow. Okay, then this is the important piece. This is where I used to do way more work than we needed to, where we used to have so these used to be like 19, 20 steps long. Okay, used to bug out and things like that. Let me just delete that. So we are, instead of having all of these instructions built into the agent, which is what we used to do, we now just send the agent off to go and read the strategy doc, okay, that has all of my brand voice, my IP that we update every single week that I talked about at the start of the call. It goes off and reads the strategy doc, meaning that then whenever we copy and paste this agent and roll it out to a client, all we have to do is build same doc for them and then connect the agent to their doc, instead of having to rebuild the wheel every single time in here. Makes it super, super simple. Then this is when it moves in, and this is like all completely automated. This is where it follows the instructions of the cadence of the content I want to produce. Okay, so this is going to be completely different for everybody. My Substack was out on a Sunday. I want an email to send people to my Substack. I've sent 3 emails a week, and I want to drive them to the call to action for the week's main offer, which in this week's example is Smart Scale, our agentic AI done for you service. Then daily social posts. Okay, so we are doing Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Substack notes, all of the usual suspects, etc. Okay, and then so these are basically the instructions that the agent is following, so that the content gets repurposed in the way that we wanted to be done. It doesn't sound like some AI ChatGPT generated garbage. It is literally built on our brand voice. Okay, so no M dashes ever, British English spelling, because I live in Ireland. Only text from the newsletter. Don't invent anything. Don't hallucinate, etc., etc. So we're putting these instructions in. Okay, and then super simple. We actually built this QA agent in off the back of this, because it used to go from here straight out. Now we have a QA agent that its only job is to check the quality and the caliber of the work created. Okay, and then when it is done, it just sends a Slack notification off to our content channel in Slack with the link to here's all the blurb, and then my team who do my posting, etc., pick it up from there. Okay, so this absolutely can go to the next stage where it just auto posts as well. It's just I still prefer to have a human being just run their eye over it and make sure that it's kind of where we want things to be from kind of my brand perspective.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a question on that one. Do you
Yeah.
have like some examples of the platform's content? Like, for example, on LinkedIn is different than X, for
Yeah.
example. I don't know which platforms you are the most active, but let's
Yeah.
say, do you
Yeah.
have
LinkedIn.
like is it searching automatically, or have you like uploaded content
Yeah.
that it cannot get access to?
Yeah, so that's what happens inside the strategy document. So the strategy document is essentially, here's all of Maeve's IP, here's Maeve's brand voice, here's how Maeve speaks, okay, or whatever the client is, and then it's just like, here's what's best practice on Substack notes. Here's what's best practice on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So it is following essentially the rules. It's not, for example, putting a clickable link into the body copy for a Facebook post. It's not putting it is putting hashtags onto an Instagram post, but not Facebook. Okay, so all of those rules are built in to this strategy doc.
Yeah, that's great. And also that's kind of like the skills that are now very popular in
Yeah, skills are
Claude.
amazing.
It's kind of similar, you have the skills, and then you can also have plugins now in Claude co-work and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's quite similar how you need to essentially give the whatever tool you are using the knowledge so it knows how to act for a specific task. I think
Yeah,
that's
because
always gonna be the
otherwise
case.
it's just So like, I think this is my biggest point of view with agentic AI is like anybody can push the buttons. It doesn't mean that the output's going to be good. You have to.
Yeah.
This is where the human and the AI come together. It's my brain that is inside all of these agents. Is my way of thinking, my way, and years and years and years of corporate experience, years of having my own intellectual property, my critical thinking skills, analysis skills, etc., etc. Those are the things that are built into the agent that make the agent valuable, not the buttons and the things that we connected. So
What
again,
AI model would you use for this one, for example? Did you connect this to Claude or something to kind
yeah.
of
So
run?
I'm an avid Claude fan. Yeah.
Okay, so how much would this one cost to run every week for you, as an example?
So let me see. 37.2.
Okay, it's
Okay.
pretty good. I mean, it would cost a lot more to hire someone, I guess, for to do
Exactly.
all
And
of that.
again, even more so when you start having it auto post. I'm currently paying a manual team to do that because that's
Yeah.
my choice. But again, so it's like all of these agents. I'm trying to get back to the main. The other thing, and this is something that I learned from my mentor in this space, works really, really well, is having all of your agents in different folders. Okay, so scout agents are the ones that are like the morning briefing agent, the competitor analysis, the ones that are going out there and scouting for information and bringing it back to you. Produce agents are the ones that actually spit out an output. Okay, like the one we just looked at. Process agents are the ones that take agent output and pass it on to the next agent. And then maintain agents are agents that kind of just do kind of administrative, ongoing maintenance type of tasks inside of the business. Okay. So like those are, I'm trying to think what else here we have. Say like the LinkedIn Daily Connection Builder is another example. So this is the one that goes and finds your ideal clients on LinkedIn. This one runs every single day. So there's no, the last example is an example that the human being is the trigger, because I actually have to write the newsletter. Okay. This one here is just set at 11 o'clock every day. Okay. And what we have here is, and this is like a really good example of one that we had to troubleshoot. We had to actually break it into 4 different kind of streams, where we used to have like go and add 20 people all in the one agent, and it kept bugging out on us, and it was really frustrating. So what we've actually done is like staggered each of these runs, so that it runs 4 times a day, and then we were able to solve for the agent bugging out. And basically it was just like there was too many steps, and it was never able to complete. So we stripped it apart. So the whole idea here is that it logs onto your LinkedIn session, it goes to your LinkedIn spreadsheet, it checks the people that we've already connected with, then it goes off and scouts for more people, and then connects with them, logs them on the spreadsheet. And then it also captures whenever we've sent message 1, which is like, hey, I'm growing my network on LinkedIn, I'd love to connect. And then it captures that has been sent. And then, but we've stripped it out now to run 4 times a day, and instead of trying to do 20 all in the one batch. Okay, so you'll come up against that when you're building these agents. That's, you know,
And
this is where you,
on LinkedIn, is it on terms of service, or can you get your account banned if you do too much of these things? I mean, obviously
yeah.
they
So
have it.
that's why we have it set at 20. Okay, so if I try to
Okay, yeah,
do 100 a day, probably.
yeah.
But again, because these agents are actually logging in through computer use, they're actually logging into my account. So whenever you initially set this thing up, you gotta, you know, you give it access to the things, you log in, give it your credentials, etc. So it's actually logging in as though it is me, and then it's adding 5 people, updating the spreadsheet, and then a couple of hours later it's coming back and adding 5 more. So it's mimicking human behavior.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the key on LinkedIn, because they are always tricky with anything automation. But I think if you do it this way
And
and not do too much of it, I
yeah,
think it should
yeah.
be
And
fine.
health warning, again, with anything, it's like if you choose to do it, that's your choice.
Yeah.
So this one here, like YouTube presentation coach, they're all like, there's not probably too much point in popping the hoods on all of these, but it's like they just literally go through the same process. They reach out to different strategy docs that we have on Google Drive, and then it like super simple, extracts the video, calculates all of our speaking metrics, researches best practices for YouTube videos, and then tells me here's how to do better on your YouTube videos, and post it over to Slack. So super simple. That one was just kind of a fun one more than anything else. It was
Yeah,
like,
I mean, this goes to show it doesn't have to be always so complex,
no, it
or
doesn't need to be a
yeah.
75-step N8N like mind bending agent. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, you know, because some of them need to be super complicated. I get that, but there's some, I think, for people who are maybe new to this, just the only way, I see so many people in paralysis, the only way to figure this out is just to start, like, first of all, do your design work, like your that overview work, and then just start playing with it, because like all of us, myself included, this is new to everybody on this planet. So we're all figuring it out. You just have to pop the hood and be willing to make mistakes, not get all caught up. I see this a lot about people obsessing about credits and how much it's costing. It's like we literally have the world at our fingertips, and we have like more opportunity than any other time in the history of the world, I believe. And it's like people are grumbling over a few credits. It's like we
Yeah.
literally have so much opportunity. It's like roll up the sleeves, get your hands dirty, have fun with it. And I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but that's me.
No, but you've shared a lot of value here. But like people or a creator would kind of get started with, a few agents. I mean, you covered a lot here, but let's say, I mean, people gonna start creating content and do different things in their
Yeah.
business. What would you recommend to people so they can maybe set up their first one right after this session?
Yeah. So what I would do is go to Claude. Please don't use ChatGPT. Go to Claude and literally I use a platform called Whisperflow. If you use it, your life will never be the same again. It is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I use it too. It's amazing.
It's like
Yeah.
everybody out there like, oh yeah, but I already have voice dictate, and I'm like, this is the best. So just use Whisperflow, which means you never have to type ever again. That entire thing that I went through today, that entire presentation, I started creating it at about 10:30 p.m. last night because I had a stacked week and my childcare fell through and all of the things. And I was able to produce that by literally talking to my computer for about an hour last night. I did a little bit of refinement, got up very early this morning and was able to refine it. And it's just, so use Whisperflow, talk to your computer, literally say, here's my business, here's what I do, here's what is happening for me inside of marketing, here's what's happening for me inside of sales. I want you to help me to map out all of the divisions of my business and all of the interactions between each of the divisions. And what we're going to do next is identify the agents that I need to build first, so that I can solve for the biggest bottlenecks that I'm struggling with. Okay, so don't blow smoke and say everything's great. If it's not, tell it exactly where things are going wrong. Tell it where you're bottlenecking. Tell them what you need more of, and then literally say to it, tell me what types of agents I need to build. Okay, so then it's going to come back and say, here are these like number of agents that you could build, and then say, great, what order should I build them in? And then they're going to say, do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you say, cool, right, let's do number 1. How do I do that? And then it'll literally tell you how to build the agent. And all you got to do is have that curiosity, that willingness to learn and the willingness to figure it out. Don't be scared of it. You can't really break anything. You might burn through a few credits, as I said, but like so. But go, and then it's like, as you then start to get into like mapping out your first agent, let's pretend it is content repurposing. It's like, okay, cool. I'm going to use the platform Lindy to build this agent. Create an instruction that I can give to Lindy so that it can easily and accurately build this agent without much rework inside the platform, because that is going to guzzle a gajillion credits. Okay, so you're using Claude as your playground to ideate, to design, to build your instructions, and then you're only going over to Lindy to push build, test, and go.
That's such good advice, actually. I mean, people start building right away without thinking sometimes. But
Yeah.
I think that's really good. And would you recommend Lindy? I mean, now we talk about the tools can change.
Mhm.
But at this
Mhm.
point, when we are doing this session, would you recommend that if you're a beginner to AI agents, or would you try other tools in terms of
Yeah, Lindy,
what's the cost value ratio?
yeah, super, super, super simple. I'm probably not going to recommend jumping into any of them if you're new to this. The whole idea with these platforms, and this is what we pay for to have access to them, is that they have solved for and handled all of the dev work, the complexity, all of what used to take a week to build can now be done in seconds. So pay for the privilege to have access to the platform that can do all that for you.
Have you tried MindPal as well? Have you experimented
Yes,
with that?
I spent a few months in MindPal last year, and then left it, not for any specific reason, more just my whole piece is like we're rolling these out for clients, so I'm coming at it from a different lens, not as a consumer or a user, sorry, but more so I have to have this like streamlined SOPs where that part of my agency are like building these agents and rolling them out to clients every single day, having that process as simple as possible and easy for the client who isn't tech savvy to be able to use and understand is the thing that I was optimizing for.
Yeah, I think maybe the UI and stuff, maybe it's a little bit better in Lindy as well. I don't know if you think that. I mean, I think the
I think it's
MindPal,
just pretty
yeah,
basic for, it's
yeah,
like if you're a non-tech person and you're kind of scared of AI and then you get handed all these AI agents, it has to be understandable. Like nobody wants to see the brain of what's going on behind it except for the geeks like us, like we want to see that,
yeah.
but the user wants it to be beautiful and the brain of it can do whatever it wants in the background, but that interface is super, super important.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've shared so much value, and I'm sure if you're here right now and watching, you have gotten so many ideas for AI agents you can create. But I would say just go to Claude and do what Maeve's shared here. I mean, go and use Whisperflow or something to share about more about your business, figure out the agents you create, and then use a platform like Lindy or some. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you use; just get your feet wet with this, basically. But Maeve, where can people connect more with you if you wanna,
Yeah,
connect
so
on social media?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn's our main platform. So just ping me a note over on LinkedIn, Maeve Ferguson.
Yeah, I will link that up below here and leave your biggest takeaways below as well if you have found value from this session. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Ciao for now.